Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kelly Smith. I'm the Wellness Administrator for the City of Cleveland's Department of Human Resources Wellness Program. And I would like to welcome you to our 4th annual Breast Cancer Awareness Luncheon. So throughout the years, we've done this wellness breast cancer awareness luncheon every year. And what we do here is basically support our survivors here at the City of Cleveland. We bring out amazing speakers to talk to our city employees to let them know what's the new technology in breast cancer, what type of other programs that they have out here for us. So what we're going to do is, if you look at your program, we're going to have them bring out lunch so you guys can eat, so you can pay attention to the guest speakers. And then after that, we'll bring up the guest speakers for you.
So my topic for this brief talk is breast cancer. Because this is such a broad area, I've decided to kind of narrow it down and focus on 3 areas: risk factors, screening, and prevention. So risk factors. It's important to know your risk factors for breast cancer because if you recognize your risk, you can start screenings at the right time. There are 2 categories of risk factors when it comes to breast cancer: those you cannot change or prevent, which are non-preventable risk factors, and those you can change or prevent, which are preventable. First, I'm going to discuss non-preventable risk factors. So it's really important to be aware of your non-preventable risk factors because these risk factors can influence when you start your screenings for breast cancer. The first one I'm going to discuss is getting older. The risk for breast cancer increases with age. Most breast cancers are diagnosed after age 50. That's why getting annual screenings starting around age 40 is so important. Second are genetic mutations. A lot of you have probably heard of BRCA1 or BRCA2. These are genetic inherited changes that can cause an early onset of breast cancer. So women who have inherited these genes are at a higher risk. In order to determine if you have these genetic mutations, you would need special testing and counseling, which you wouldn't necessarily do unless you have a family history in a first-degree relative at a young age. First-degree relatives like mother, sister, and then also your reproductive history. So if you're a woman that started her menstrual periods before age 12 or started menopause after age 55, these are some things that might increase your risk of developing breast cancer. Having dense breasts. Dense breasts have more connective tissue than fatty tissue, which can sometimes make it hard to see tumors on a mammogram. Women with dense breasts are more likely to get breast cancer. Breast density is something that is diagnosed during a clinical breast exam or during a mammogram. Also, if you've had a personal history of breast cancer or certain other cancers. So women who have had breast cancer are more likely to get breast cancer a second time. Also, your family history. A woman's risk for breast cancer is higher if she has a mother, sister, or daughter, which is first-degree relative, or multiple family members on either side who have been diagnosed with breast cancer. Also, having a male relative with breast cancer is a positive risk factor. Next, I just want to discuss risk factors you can change. So these risk factors, if changed or stopped, can help prevent you from developing breast cancer. Firstly, not being physically active. Women who are not physically active have a higher risk of getting breast cancer. Being overweight or obese, especially after menopause. Older women who are overweight or obese have a higher risk of getting breast cancer than those at a normal weight. Taking hormones. Some forms of hormone replacement therapy, those that include both estrogen and progesterone, taken during menopause can raise risk for breast cancer when taken for more than 5 years. So if you make the decision to take hormone replacement therapy, this is a conversation to have with your provider. Reproductive history. So this could be preventable or non-preventable, but having a first pregnancy after age 30, not breastfeeding, or never having a full-term pregnancy can raise breast cancer risk. Also, drinking alcohol. Studies have shown that women's risks for breast cancer increase with the more alcohol you consume. So now that we discussed these risk factors, I would like to talk to you about screenings. There are several different types of screenings. First of all is mammogram. A mammogram is a process of using low-energy X-rays to examine the breast for diagnosis and screening. There are 2 types of mammograms, screening and diagnostic. A screening mammogram is used to check for signs of cancer in patients who show no signs. A diagnostic mammogram is used when signs of cancer are seen on a screening mammogram. So you may have a film screen mammogram, which is like an X-ray, or a digital, which is a computerized 3D image. Both are very reliable. At Neon, we recommend starting annual or yearly mammograms at age 40. There are a lot of opinions about this, though, and when to begin your mammograms, whether it's at age 40, 38, 45, or 50, should be a personal decision based on recommendations from your provider and your risk factors. Second is an MRI mammogram. Women who are high risk for breast cancer, for example, those with some of our non-preventable risk factors, might benefit from an MRI in addition to an annual screening mammogram. Breast self-exam. While not a formal type of screening, a breast self-exam is a useful tool for screening for breast cancer and changes to the breast. Breast self-exams are especially useful when combined with a mammogram, physical exam, and a clinical breast exam. The best time to do a self-breast exam is 4 to 5 days after your menstrual period has ended. This is when the breasts are least likely to be swollen and tender due to hormonal changes that naturally occur during the monthly cycle. The best place to start with your breast self-exam is by visualizing your breasts in the mirror. What you're looking for are breasts that are their usual size, shape, and color. Breasts that are evenly shaped without visible distortion or swelling. You're also looking for dimpling, puckering, or bulging of the skin, a nipple that has changed position or has become inverted, redness, soreness, rash, or swelling, or discharge from either nipple. What to feel for. When performing a breast self-exam, some women find it helpful to prop the side they're feeling on a pillow while laying down. Other women find it useful to feel their breasts in the shower, as the warm water and soap can help the hands glide over the breast tissue. I also want to mention that some women may find it useful to have a partner or significant other participate in their breast self-exam. This can be a way to create intimacy and enhance communication between two partners. So whether you examine your own breasts or you have assistance from a significant other or friend, there are some things you want to feel for. So, because it can really be a nice thing for your partner to help you with that. So when you're doing your breast self-exam, normal breast tissue can feel somewhat lumpy, possibly tender based on the time of the month. But what you're really kind of looking for is a fixed or hardened lump that doesn't move, that can be tender or non-tender. You want to use mild, medium, and firm pressure and touch all portions of the breast, including your armpit and middle of the chest, as well as under the breast. Monthly is a good goal for doing your self-breast exam. The most valuable aspect of the breast exam is getting to know what your breasts feel and look like so that you can appreciate when there is a change. Now I just want to briefly discuss some prevention strategies for breast cancer. As I mentioned before, changing those preventable risk factors is one of the best ways to prevent breast cancer. So, exercising, maintaining a healthy weight, drinking in moderation, not smoking cigarettes, and if you're of childbearing years, making the decision to breastfeed are all ways to prevent yourself from developing breast cancer. Checking your breasts with breast self-exams monthly, obtaining yearly or biannual mammograms, and clinical breast exams yearly are a way to catch breast cancer early and get treated to prevent serious complications. Also, being aware of your non-preventable risk factors, such as family history or personal history of breast cancer, will help you make the best decisions regarding screenings, such as when to screen and if you need mammograms or MRIs yearly. Thank you so much for your time. If you're in need of a mammogram, please call Neon to set up an appointment today.
Thank you, Amy. So next is our guest speaker is Ursula Harris. Ursula has been with the city for about 20 years, and we have Toy Porch, who will be introducing her.
Good afternoon. Surprise, Ursula. So I'm going to try to get through this. Without getting emotional. So yesterday, here I go. I know, it's all right here. So I'm going to say this with my shoulders, Ursula. So yesterday, I knew about the event, and I walked in Director's West office, and they said, Toy, you want to say something? I'm like, oh. But I had been talking to Ursula about this, and she didn't want anybody to know, so I tried to rally up the Public Works crew. And she was telling me she was working on a speech, and I'm like, oh, you saying the whole speech? And she said, yeah. So when Kelly said, and Gina said, well, Toy, what you going to say? I'm said, I can't prepare a speech because it's not about me, it's about Ursula, so I'm going to speak from my heart. So, Ursula Harris. When I think about Ursula, I just think courage. I remember when she told me, and we cried on the phone, and I'm like, oh no, Ursula, So ever since then, we've had a connection. During her time, my grandmother was ill, and so we just connected. Ursula is so much more than my coworker. She's my friend, and I love her. And so I'm just introducing my friend, my coworker, my sister, Ursula Harris.
Yeah. 1 second. This is why I didn't want to invite anyone. Kelly's been asking me to do this, and I wanted to do it without crying, but thanks, Kelly. So I didn't, like Toy said, I didn't let my family know. I didn't tell my husband. I didn't tell my mother because I wanted to get my little speech out so everyone have my information. But I guess I need to get that cry out, so I should be good. So thanks, Toy. Oh. Okay, so what I wanted to talk about today was the myths that I had concerning breast cancer. So my first one is, which is a big one I think for everybody, cancer doesn't run in my family, so I don't have anything to worry about. So in March of 2013, my birthday is in April, so I was afraid. I didn't take my first mammogram at 40. So I said, okay, when I turned 41, I went ahead and took the mammogram. So the mammogram, of course, came back good. They didn't send me the letter, where they sometimes say it was something faulty with the test, blah, 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 you need to come back. So my mammogram was good. So in September of that same year, I found a lump in my left breast. So I went through the whole thing, scheduling with the surgeon, blah, blah, blah. So when it came time for the biopsy, the nurse or whoever was doing the biopsy was like, because I'm sure they could see it, they know what the shape is and all that. So when she came out to talk to me, she was about to go into that spiel, when you turn 40, you're supposed to take your mammogram, blah, 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 blah. So I was like, I took my mammogram, and she went back and she checked, and she was like, oh my God, you did. And there was nothing there from March to September. So she, oh my goodness, and I'm like, yeah. So I'm like, you're trying to tell me I know. Of course, no cancer on either my mother's side that I know of, because some families keep secrets, but no cancer on my mother's side, no cancer on my father's side, no breast cancer, no lung cancer, no anything. So of course it was a shock to me. So for me, I guess knowledge is power, so I didn't have any knowledge or any firsthand experience of what to do or what's going to happen with breast cancer, having that diagnosis. So Then I had to wait for the surgeon to officially tell me, which I kind of got it from the nurse. So in November, the doctor, of course, called me at work. I'm like, really, can't you just say come into the office and not tell me at work? So I told, I think one of the workers in my location there before I had to tell my outside work family. So at the time, we were just becoming public works, meetings all the time, blah, blah, blah. So my commissioner, you know, he made sure, and that's one thing too for the managers that we may have here, the comfort level that you can give your employee at that time. I just am so grateful. My director had to leave to go to a meeting, but that was a load off. I didn't feel like I was gonna lose my job. I just could concentrate on what I needed to get through this. So that little side note. For all you guys out there that may have employees going through this. So at the same time, my next myth that I didn't know, again at the time, men do get breast cancer. So one of the employees or co-workers at that time was one of the superintendents, and he had breast cancer. And I was like, oh my God, I've been here like 4 years, I didn't know that. Not that you're supposed to wear it on your shoulder, but I was like, wow. So when it came time to do schedule for chemo, he gave me some really good pointers again, so I wouldn't feel like I had to take off work and be off. He told me to schedule chemo on a Friday. You take Saturday and Sunday to get yourself together, and Monday you come back to work. I'm like, get out of here, really? So that's what I did. And I didn't have to use a lot of time. I only took off every other week. I think I had chemo on a Friday. I went through whatever side effects it was, and that was that. Now, of course, it's not as easy as I'm talking because, man, the side effects were out of this world. I think I had 2 types of chemo treatments. One set, I felt like I had the flu, the major aches and pains and all of that stuff. So but just knowing it was an easier way, because me, I was about to say, okay, I'll go on Monday, but then I would have been off, you know, all these days and just been thrown off. So I really appreciated him telling me that. So now when I talk to people, or people send people to me, and I make sure I pass that on. So again, for you guys, if it's anybody that's worried about their job, you know, just make sure to utilize that Saturday and that Sunday, because I did come back to work on a Monday. And not that I recall, I don't think I really had too much during that week until it was time to go back. But that piece of advice really took that load off, or that worry that, oh my God, I'm gonna take too much time off of work. So that part really, really helped. My next myth was, I don't need anyone to help me. I can do this by myself. Nope. Please have a good support system. So people that work with me know I'm a loner. I'll do it. I tell y'all what I come up with, what I get done. Stop it right there. So when it came time for going over the chemo procedure, so the oncologist calls you in, you and your family, you sit at like a little meeting table, and she's going over all what we need to do for chemo, what you can do, what you cannot do. And my mother-in-law was saying, well, Ursula, make sure you have somebody there to take notes. I'm like, take notes? Who gonna take notes? So come to find out, we needed somebody there to take notes. So while the oncologist is talking, I think I zoned out. It was too overwhelming. My mother walked out. My husband had his head down. It was like, oh my God. And my mother-in-law was taking notes. So when I got home, she was like, she had typed it up for me all nice and pretty, what I had to do, and gave it to me in a folder. And I was like, oh my God, thank you. Because I did not remember anything that the oncologist said. And it was, you know, a couple do's and don'ts. You couldn't eat spicy stuff. You had to have a special toothbrush, and you can only take Tylenol during the chemo, little stuff like that, but I'm sure with everybody's situation, it may be different instructions, but that was a lifesaver. So for anyone, don't let your family members go to that first meeting or to chemo by themselves. My mother went to chemo with me because at that time my children were just 5 and 7. My husband had to take them to school. My mother took FMLA and she took me to chemo. And it got to be where we made it a little game. My mother would come, we dressed the same. She bought us matching hats. So when we went to chemo, I was like, oh Lord, what is my mother, when I was coming out to get in the car, what type of hat are we gonna have now? And it got to the point I had my own chemo chair. When I came, the nurse was like, oh, Ursula, your chair's ready. And I'm like, okay. And so we just made it fun, and it got to the point when chemo was over, it's amazing, but we kind of missed going. We had, made friends with the nurses, and they enjoyed us. We enjoyed them. My husband, when he was able to leave, he brought us lunch for the whole staff, and they just really loved it. And I was like, okay, well, yeah, we're going to have to leave here eventually. So now when I go back, everybody, oh, hi, Ursula, hi, how's everyone? And, cancer is supposed to be this sad thing, and it's like we just really turned it around. So, again, it was some people there when I was taking the chemo, and people were coming to see my mother, actually, because, for a mother to sit there and to see her firstborn to go through chemo, so... I know, I'm sorry. Some days she would walk out. So I know this is why I didn't want her to come. Because I didn't want to cry. But she did. She started to get company of her own. My father came, and that was a shock. I hadn't seen my parents together. I'm a product of a mother having the baby at a young age. My mother had me at 17, and of course, my father married, divorced real early. I wasn't a bad kid, so I didn't never have to see my mother and father together, a lot. So to look over at them sitting there together at the age, a little over 40, I was like, wow, this is what it takes to get them in the same room. So, again, if someone, the support system, you definitely is a need, because you just don't want to sit there. Sometimes we saw people, leaving it, the mental part of it, you just needed really somebody to walk out of, the chemo with you. So, my next thing... Oh, I have 3 for this little bit. I'm going to lose my hair. It won't come back. And some say it will come back like baby hair. Nope, not for me. Maybe someone else. Didn't get the baby hair. I will no longer be myself or worried about what the perception is of others. So, like Toy said, we were talking about this, and Toy and Lakia had just went to a class on perception. So I kind of changed this speech a couple times. I think sometimes last week somebody called me and was telling me somebody they knew didn't want to take chemo because they had good hair and they didn't want to lose their hair. And I was like, wow, the perception. And again, I thought back to Toy and Lakia, and we worry so much about the perception of what we think others will think of us, when you need to worry about your perception of yourself. So my example for that is, so with the hair deal, I just followed the doctor's order. She told me it was going to fall out. I cut my hair off myself because I didn't want to be one of those people. And again, I didn't know anything about breast cancer or what chemo. I'm just going by what I see on TV. And, people be in the shower and they, you know, do like that to wash their hair and all the hair come out in their hands or whatever. I'm like, no, that'd be too much. Can't do it. So my husband and my children went somewhere, and when they left, I just shaved all my hair off because I just probably that would have been too much for me. So the perception, and in today's world where you can go buy hair that probably 9 times out of 10 looks like your hair, to let your life and you leave your family and your children over hair is just, that was unreal. I thought I had heard everything until I heard that, and I definitely wanted to share that with you guys in case, again, you know someone. And again, I just heard it here a couple minutes ago. We have to value our lives to others. Like I said, I have 2 children, and I just couldn't even imagine, you know, me leaving my children if I had anything to do or say about it. And I said, oh, I'm just going to leave my children because my hair going to fall out or it's not going to come back the way it was. It's unreal. I couldn't even imagine that. And then, you know, you'll no longer be yourself. I think, if possible, I think I became stronger. I already was kind of there already. Stop it. I was there already, but this has really, so then it came to the point where, Ursula, I had to console people because I just didn't let the cancer get me. I got it. Whatever that doctor told me I had to do, I did it. Thank you. And so other people, oh, Ursula, I need you to talk to this person. I need you to talk to that person. Okay, because I just didn't, I guess as they say, act like a person who was going through cancer treatment or chemo, because I just didn't act like that. So when it came time for the surgery, now that is when it kind of hit me. So as mentioned by Amy in her speech about the BRCA gene, I was also diagnosed with the BRCA gene, which again I didn't understand because my myth, I thought, you know, you got it from a family member. So I also had that. So then that was another little scare because I was like, oh my God, my son and my daughter. So for them, I, you know, let their pediatrician know. They put it in their file just in case, you know, as they get older. But with that diagnosis, the oncologist told me that I had to have a mastectomy, remove both breasts, and a hysterectomy. So then it's like, oh boy, here we go. So when it came time for the surgery, I think it really hit me. I think I cried a little bit on the way there. But then I had to, you know, bring it back. I got to do this for my children because I can't keep them, you know. So I had that surgery. So this goes back into even when you go to the hospital, make sure you have someone stay there. Did the same thing to my mother. Oh, no, Mom, you don't need to stay at the hospital with me. You can go home, you know, get you some rest, come back in the morning. I'm fine at the hospital. Nope. I was coming out of recovery from the mastectomy, and because of the chemo, I couldn't get the IV in my arm, so they had to put the IV like right here. So everybody was already in the room when I came in. So the nurse, you know, they first asked you, what's your pain from 1 to 10? I'm like, 10. So she walking around still never came back. And my mother said, you know, she told you she's still in pain. Oh, I'm coming back. So the nurse finally came back, and when she came to give me the pain medicine, she grabbed me right here where the IV was, right? Yes, that face. So I screamed. My mother said, what? She told you she was in pain. She grabbed me. She, you know, did the mother thing. She walked, you talking to her, don't you come back. So I was in too much pain to laugh, but I was like, well, that's what what you get. But in the process, my mother was like, now, she's gone, I need another nurse in here, and where's her manager? Unbeknownst to us, the manager was already in the room. And she saw everything, so it wasn't nothing really that my mother had to say after that, because I don't know if the manager was scared. She never said anything to protect the nurse. But she got us a new nurse, and my mother was like, okay, yeah, that's what, yeah, thank you. So, again, if you can, someone, because as the patient, you are so out of it, you really don't know what is going on or coherent enough to, if they ask you those questions, if you can answer correctly or at all. So, again, just make sure that you have someone with you there in the hospital. So, my last myth was, if I had cancer, I just thought I was going to die. I just didn't know. Again, you see on TV, the people, they start to look like aliens. They get real skinny. And as you guys see, that didn't happen to me. I didn't lose so much weight. But I made it, so I'm Ursula Harris, and I'm a 4-year breast cancer survivor.
Thank you, Ursula. So now we have our final speaker, Patrina Patterson from UH.
Well, good afternoon. I think I need some Kleenex too after all this. It's very hard to come behind Ursula. But first of all, I'd like to thank you, Kelly, for everything that you've done, not only for your employees, but also what you've done for the city. So I thank you for that. And thank you for having me. And on behalf of UH, we like to thank you also. And also, I know you work with a team, with your HR director and assistant director at the table. Sometimes we can't do anything unless our directors buy into it. So I'd like to thank both of them also for backing, I'm sure, Kelly up on this. As the last speaker, don't worry, I won't keep you long because I know everybody's looking at those cupcakes. But just kind of, Kelly said, just kind of close in and bring it all together. Everything that Amy and Ursula said is so true. And like she said with the myths, as I go out and teach breast cancer awareness all over this city and parts of the country, it's the myths that tie us up. So everything that she mentioned is true, that we have to begin to look at our bodies. If I had $1 for every day that a woman told me, oh, well, I don't get my mammogram done because it doesn't run in the family, just as Ursula said, history will start with someone, and it may just start with you. 80% of the cancer diagnoses that we see for breast are from women who do not have a family history. So that's a very small percentage that's left. 20% of the breast cancers that we see are hereditary. So most of us fall in that 80 percentile. So that is a big myth. And also women will tell me, oh, well, I had it done about 3 years ago. It hurt so bad. There's no breast cancer in my family, and I don't know if I'm going to get it done again. But my answer, for every time I could get that $1, I just wouldn't be here today because I would be somewhere else. For the times that people said that to me, and then I will say to them, you want to hurt now or you want to hurt later? Which one? If you're having a problem and you get your mammogram done every year and it hurts and it makes you uncomfortable, then try different tech. Just a little sidebar. It happened to me with a medical company that's no longer in the state of Ohio that will remain nameless. And I would get my mammogram done. The same woman, they had a suite of 4, Same woman, oh, hi, Patrina, you're back to get your mammogram. I said, yes. And it would just kill me. But I would just get through it, and I'm just like, oh my God, this thing hurts so bad. I don't want to do it. But I would get it done. So after about a couple of years of that, I came around the corner and she was, hi, Patrina, you're here again. I said, oh, hold on one second. So I went back out to the registration desk. I said, is there another tech on today? And she said, oh yeah, all 4 suites are open. I said, can I go to another tech and not tech room? She said, well, sure. And you particular, I said, no, I just want to change up. I just want to meet somebody new. I went in the next room. Another woman did the mammogram. I didn't hurt at all. I was like, how did that happen? So I said all that to say this. Sometimes it's a tech. Love them all, but some people just have their job and they do their job. So if you're experiencing that and you see the same person, then just a tip, word for the wise, try a different tech or try a different facility within your medical home. And it may not hurt as bad. It should not hurt to the point of just being excruciating pain. But again, prepare yourself for it. You know, have something really good to eat before you go and think about that, and you just never know. It may not feel as bad. But also, all the myths that you have on the internet, be careful what you read. There's a big myth out there that antiperspirants, deodorant causes breast cancer in men and women. That's a myth. Please put your deodorant on. And I'm sure your coworkers here at the city would enjoy that you do. So be careful what you read. There are over 15 different types of breast cancer. So that's why some breast cancers may be more aggressive than others. So you can't compare. It's like comparing apples and oranges, why some women live longer. Some people are 45-year survivors. Some people only survive 6 months. But it depends on the pathology report, depends on their chemistry. And also with UH, if you're ever in between insurances, along with Cleveland Clinic, and I can say that because we do get along in the cancer department. I don't know about the rest of the hospitals, but cancer to cancer, we get along. They have a program and we have a program where you can get your mammogram done free if you're without insurance. And sometimes in between, you go through something, life changes, you don't have insurance for 6 months, or it's a new job and you start here and your insurance has lapsed for a moment. You can always call University Hospital Simon Cancer Center and get your mammogram done. If you're without insurance and we do see something, we pay for everything through a grant up until the time of diagnosis. So there's absolutely no excuse for any woman not to get her mammogram done because she doesn't have insurance. Thankfully, because of the Affordable Care Act, we have a lot of people who are insured now. But there still are a lot of women just in between that are not getting those mammograms done because they're too afraid that we'll find something, too afraid that they won't be able to be with their children, too afraid that what am I going to do if I lose my hair? I hear that a lot also over at the Cancer Center. So keep that in mind. And last but not least, a little bit about our men. Amy touched on it, that men that have breast cancer, the majority of the time, it is hereditary for them. So if your mother had breast cancer, just as Ursula, I think you said you have a daughter and a son, your son should be just as interested in breast cancer as your daughter. Because generally, if it's going to be hereditary, it's generally on the mother's side. And for men, generally it is hereditary. Now, it may affect them first before their siblings. But we do male mammograms, believe it or not. They don't get the smash and grab like us. We have a paddle that just pushes up against their chest to flatten them out so that we can see if there's any lumps or anything. With men, they will see a lump or blemish or a rash quicker than us. Often men will feel that it is ingrown hair follicle or something like that, but you need to get that checked. But if the mother, the sister, or your sister had breast cancer and you're a male, then you should be just as aware of it, meaning that when you take your shower, you just need to be looking at your breasts. You don't have to do a total breast exam. But you need to keep that in mind. Some famous men, John Lucas, who did all the Star Wars, he's a breast cancer survivor. Most of us know about Richard Roundtree and Montel Williams from Cleveland. We had Ernie Green, 1968 Browns. And he found a lump under his arm, came to the great university hospital. Just thought I'd put that in there. But anyway. But I did work for Cleveland Clinic for 17 years, so what can I say? But anyway. But Ernie Green came. He was the first one in his family to have breast cancer and didn't know where it came from. But he woke up, had a large lump under his arm, had it checked, had the mammogram, had a mastectomy, and is not afraid to wear pink. He had 4 siblings, 4 girls and 1 boy, and his mother was still living. No one in his family had breast cancer, but within 4 years, all 4 of his sisters had breast cancer after him. So you never know with the genealogy how it's going to go, and also the steps in the family. So don't always think it's the oldest sister. It may be the youngest brother had it, and then all the sisters, and the mother has breast cancer. We've had women who have had breast cancer, and then 15, 20 years later, their mother had breast cancer. So, okay, so what happened? Because the daughter had it before the mother. So with all of that in mind, sometimes we just overthink it. At the end of the day, we want you to get a clinical breast exam done before your mammogram. Do your monthly self-breast exams. I know culturally with African Americans, that was not taught. And third of all, get your mammogram done starting at the age of 40. I've had breast cancer in my family. I'm also a survivor, and this is what I do and live by for 20 years, that I go out and teach you how to do it yourself and make you aware. So at any time you have any questions, I'll be over here. I'll give you my card. But other than that, those are your take-home points from both of our speeches today, is know your breasts, know your body, and you're the best advocate, okay? Thank you.
Thank you, Katrina, for that wonderful speech. I just want to say thank you to everyone for coming out. We have some tokens for some of our survivors that are here. And I was wondering if we can get our survivors to stand up, please. We have a few tokens for our survivors and our guest speakers. I'm sorry, you can have a seat. But I just see that my chief is in the back, so I was wondering, the chief? Okay. All right. Director. These are our guest speakers. Oh, can you have on this side? Yeah.
You get 2, darling. Oh.
Is Jeanine here?
Jeannie?
Jean. The wellness program would just like to say to our survivors that you're a star in our life, and we just wanted to give you appreciation for thanking that. I have Chief Walker here.
Good afternoon. This is always one of my favorite events here in the city of Cleveland because it takes courage to share. And so for that, I honor each of you as survivors, the courage to share and to walk through that valley without fear and to live to tell that story on the other side. And that's a testimony, and that's a sharing, and that's an example of walking in faith. And for those of us that have watched many of you walk in faith, that is good for us. That's good for our souls because we can see what happens on the outcome. So for that, I salute each and every one of you. Breast cancer became very real for me 2 years out of graduate school. I was in a cohort of 20 people. And 2 or 3 years out, one of the young ladies, the youngest person in my cohort, she was 35 years old. I'll never forget, I received a phone call, and she said she was diagnosed with breast cancer. And those of us in our cohort, we rallied around her. She lived in New York, and she because of her faith beliefs, she wanted to walk through it without medical care. She wanted to do it in a natural way. And unfortunately, 3 months later, she lost her battle with breast cancer. And it was then that I began to really pay attention to my own monthly exams. To this day, that little plastic thing that's over the hook in the shower, it's there as a constant reminder for me to check my breasts on a regular basis. And there have been 2 occasions when I myself have found something in my breast because my breasts are very dense, which means, and I don't know the medical term, one of you all may know the medical term, but they take you in for additional testing, which compresses to confirm. And that is scary, and it doesn't feel good, but it's worth it. It's worth it because we need to know, and we cannot be fearful of what the doctor will say. What we need to be fearful of is not knowing and not acting. And it's just important to do that. And this is a good news story. Another young lady, again, I told you there were 20 of us in my cohort. 5 years ago, she found out that she was diagnosed with breast cancer, and she was very proactive, and she made the very difficult decision to have a double mastectomy. And she felt that way because she came to that conclusion because cancer ran in her family, and so it was the best decision for her after talking to her medical providers. Well, now when they remove a breast as opposed to years ago, they can do reconstructive surgery. And I'll never forget, after her reconstructive surgery, she called me and said she was living her best life ever because when they reconstruct, they take from, the fatty areas in your body. And so she went from an A cup to a C cup. She got a tummy tuck and a butt lift. She said she was going to get all of that. And today she says she's living her best life ever. And I just wanted to share that little moment of joy because she took what was a very emotional situation and she was able to turn it around. And so I say to each of you that have walked through that, again, I salute you for your courage because many of the faces we're aware of, you shared, you trusted your coworkers so that you didn't go through that alone. You cried, you prayed, you journaled, you did what you needed to do. And for each of us that have watched that, we have to have the regular reminders to perform our exams and to encourage one another to perform our own self-exams and then to get those annual exams from our doctors. We have great medical insurance. We have a good retirement plan too, but we have great medical insurance. And it saddens Nicole and I and her team when we meet with our insurance providers and we look at who's not taking advantage. who's not taking advantage of those. And so I want to encourage you to tell a neighbor, tell a friend, get your annual exams, get your regular testings for all of your health, because we need you healthy so that you can perform in these jobs that we have, right? And we want to be healthy. We want to be healthy, right? And so I'm just glad to be here. I'm always glad to be here. Here's another funny. I only own 2 pink suits. One I couldn't fit this morning, so I had to put on another. And I told Nicole, I said, you're going to get me in those AKA colors. So for those that understand the Greek life. And but all that to say, it's a good day. It's good to see our survivors, and we need to still encourage them. Because even though they're on the other side, there are other things they need to do, as they've had to change some of the way they eat, the exercise. It's just some of the psychological things, just from the emotional components that people go through when you are confronted with something like that. So be there for them, encourage them, and get your own test. Have a great day. Be blessed.
So I just would like to say thank you to everybody for coming. We do have a candy buffet for everyone over there, and we have dessert back there if you would like to take some on your way out. Have a great afternoon. And don't forget to wear your pink on Friday for our pink out. Have a good one. Bye-bye.